Afternoon. That's my only slide. Aren't you happy about that? I'm Mike Shepard, your chairman, and I want to welcome you to this quarterly meeting. I know it's not always easy for everybody to schedule getting over here, so I really want to thank you for being here and participating. It means a lot. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Darren. Thanks, Mike.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TPC Week, right? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cover the fourth quarter, Q4 2024, the full fiscal year, and the explanations I'm going to provide are going to be year over year. So last year's fiscal year 23 compared to this year's fiscal 24. And we'll start with the balance sheet. We'll start up here in the cash section, current assets. You can see that, and if you follow the arrows, that might be the best thing to do. Current assets increased from prior year just over $6 million, $6.4 million. And what that was primarily due to is marketing. Marketing did a great job of selling a lot of the open units that were here on this campus, Sawgrass, in the fourth quarter. So as you can imagine, there was a tremendous amount of entrance fee receipts that came in. Unfortunately, we don't have a big refund queue right now, so a lot of that contributed to the growth in cash. When you look at the next arrow down, which is the funds held by trustees, those are the funds that are basically held at U.S. Bank. They're restricted in nature, and when you look at this year's balance compared to last year's balance, it went down to over $15 million, and you might say, is that good or bad? Well, it's actually good, because we had two major accounts in there. One was the Hancock-Whitney operations refund account, and that was the excess entrance fees we received from phase one. So phase one of Oak Ridge, we paid off the debt for that, and then we took the excess entrance fees, which amounted to about $12 million, put those in escrow, and then when we completed phase two, we paid off the $30 million with that 12 plus the initial entrance fees of the folks that moved in. So it's all good. That's all a good reduction in escrowed cash. PP&E, the next arrow down, grew about $24 million. Well, really, that's nothing more than a reclassification of Oak Ridge project costs up into PP&E. So when we were, during the course of the year, we're building, right? We're building the third flat, we're building those 5 cottages over at Oak Ridge. We have routine CapEx on this campus as well as Oak Ridge. And when it all became operational, we have to shift them from CIP, construction in progress, up to PP&E, and then start depreciating that. So that's just a shift, or oops, I'm not blinding anybody. So then Oak Ridge remaining costs here, which you'll see are about $6.7 million on the books at year end, represents phase 3 of Oak Ridge. The new memory care and assisted living, as well as the vehicular access that was just completed that leads into Oak Ridge. Next slide, please. So up here is the liability side, and what you want to see up here is there's liabilities, and it's nice to see your liabilities go down, obviously, right? So you can see from accounts payable and other current liabilities, it went down $1.8 million. That was mostly due to the construction retainage that we had at the end of the previous year that we paid in 2024. So when Dana's finished the construction of the third flat, that retainage was released and paid. And so that reduced the liability. The next arrow down is entrance fee refunds liability. That is our refundable entrance fees. When someone passes away that had a refund contract, it goes up to refund liability payable, and then we essentially pay it off. You can see that was reduced by about 1.5 million year over year. During the course of the year, we started the year with 6 refunds payable. We added 17 during the year. We paid off 21, and we ended the year with 2 outstanding. And those 2 were actually paid in January, and as of today, we don't have any refund liabilities on the books. So we're in good shape there. There was a question that came to Bruce about the ground lease liability of $42 million. And what that represents is Oak Ridge ground, the Oak Ridge ground lease. So there's a ground lease that we have with, obviously that we contracted with at the beginning of the project. You'll note that, I mean, obviously that represents the principal payment over the next 30 years. It's a 30-year ground lease. And then it's a capital asset. So you have to keep in mind that if you flip back to the previous slide, on the asset side, there's a right of use lease asset too. So we record it as an asset and we amortize it over the lease term. And then the liability essentially reflects the principal that is due over the course of the next 25 years remaining. The next line down, the arrow down, is the 2022 bonds. You can see we paid those off entirely. It was at 23 million outstanding at the end of last year. We drew down the remaining 7 million and then we paid it off entirely. And then the 24 bonds reflect the new issuance that we just did in November. That is 66 million in drawdown bonds. That is being used to construct the new memory care building at Oak Ridge, as well as the assisted living, to fund the alternate access, as well as the operational parking garage and maintenance facility that's going to be constructed on this campus in the near term. And then the last line, which is deferred entrance fees, that growth of about 27 million effectively represents the contracts that were written for most of the people that moved into Oak Ridge, that third flat and the cottages, as well as regular move-ins during the course of the year. Next page. So actually, I wanted to summarize the year, the balance sheet real quickly. You don't have to go back to the previous page, but cash and investments went up over 6 million. Our AP accruals and entrance fee refunds decreased by over 3 million. We paid off the 22 bonds of 30 million. We paid down principal on the 21 bonds of over 2 million. We did issue new bonds and draw down about 5 million on those 24 bonds. And we decreased our refund liability by over 4 million. So in all, the net deficit decreased about 1 million for the year. So a good solid year. This is the statement of operations, and when you look at revenues overall, revenues were slightly ahead of budget and considerably ahead of last year. About 5 million ahead of last year, which represents about a 16% increase. And that's because of the new units that have come on board. They came on board starting in about April last year and filled up. They were pretty much full by August. So you'll see some additional revenue next year because we'll have a full year of operations. When you look at the monthly service fees from IL, we didn't meet budget. We were roughly down about 600,000 or so from budget. And that was because Sawgrass here on this campus last year, we started off below our budgeted number. And that happened throughout the year. However, when we got to Q4, marketing did a really nice job of catching up. In fact, we hit our budgeted number by year end. And not only did they hit the budgeted number, they had 11 units that were available, and 10 of which had 10% deposits. So they were in very, very good shape. As far as health services go, when you look at health services, the revenues exceeded budget for the year by over 800,000. The majority of which was related to home health. Home health did a really nice job. They did a great job of increasing their cases during the course of the year. And that helped offset that shortfall. From a statistical perspective, when you look at occupancy on the higher levels of care, we had the health center basically average about 49 beds occupied of the 60 units over there during the course of the year. We had budgeted 48, so they actually exceeded their budget. The assisted living was slightly below. We budgeted 32, they were at 30. But Medicare patient days were right on budget, 7 Medicare patients per day on average. Community days were shy of budget by about 1. We budgeted 6 per month, and we hit 5. So a nice job of getting very close to where we had budgeted for the year. When you look at operational expenses, the major items that on this page to really focus in on our dining and the health center. We did have some overages in those areas. In the health center, mostly contributable to, and you heard me every single quarter talk about the shortage we're experiencing in nurses. And so we're having to go out and get contract labor to fill the shifts that are really difficult to fill. So that's just a continuous thing that we had to deal with throughout the year. The other thing is we had a market rate adjustment for our clinical staff, for our registered nurses, as well as some of our CNAs, and we did that for retention purposes. So we had to do that during the course of the year. And then with home health, the demand was great. I talked about the revenue and the growth in revenue. Unfortunately, we didn't have the employees on staff to be able to meet that demand, so we had to contract out for labor. We do intend this year to start hiring employees to better serve that demand and increase our margins. When you look at the bottom line, it says operating income year to date after non-cash items is about $3 million. We were shy of our target by about $500,000. That's mainly due to depreciation. If you look at depreciation, that pretty much makes up the entire variance. And the reason why is when we put those assets into the fixed asset module during the course of the year, the Oak Ridge third flat as well as those new cottages, it automatically calculates depreciation, actual depreciation. And our budgeted depreciation was slightly below that. We just forecasted, we're just off on our forecast. Next page. So cash flow, when you look at the cash flow, you look at cash flow from operations provided $32 million, which is down here. And that's a big number. And it's a big number because we had a tremendous amount of initial entrance fees come in for the new construction at Oak Ridge. But we also had a good number of turnover entrance fees come in through the sold units here on Sawgrass. So a big component of that source of cash flow from operations is through those entrance fees. And then you look at, I talked to you before about the paying off of the construction payable and the entrance fee and waitlist deposits being utilized. So that's going in the opposite direction below. So those are the major factors in that change. Next page. And when you look at cash from investing activities, used for investing activities of 6.3 above, that's primarily due to just purchases of assets, right? So we purchased all the assets related to the expansion at Oak Ridge as well as our routine CapEx. And essentially that's offset by your change in restricted escrow funds, which I talked to you about before when we used the funds that were escrowed at Hancock Whitney to pay down the debt. Essentially that flows through the cash flow and in an opposite direction of the acquisitions. When you look at cash flow from financing activities, use of 18 million. That is, the two activities there are the repayment of the 22 bonds and the issuance of the proceeds received from the issuance of the 24 bonds. So they work in opposite directions. And so, next page, please. So this is the cash statement. And the things that I'd like to highlight are, when you look at unrestricted use assets, you can see that we had a couple of accounts up here that were populated at year end, close to year end. One is the ERC credit. We talked about that before. Those are the funds we received when we applied for that employee retention credit. So it's sitting in an account at Hancock Whitney and accruing some nice interest right now. And we also have a money market account of $3.6 million. Those funds were transferred from our investment portfolio at the end of the year and put into Hancock Whitney money market account. And in February, we moved it into an account at Bank United. And the reason why we did that is Bank United is the participatory bank in the new financing. So Hancock Whitney, 66 million. Hancock Whitney took out 36 million of that. We borrowed 36 million from them. We borrowed 30 million from Bank United. So Bank United wanted some type of depository account with us. And so what we could have done is we could have borrowed the funds through the new financing, but then we would be paying interest on top of that. So it made absolutely no sense. The best course of action was to take the money from our investment portfolio, move it into a money market account at Bank United, and earn interest on it. And that satisfied the requirement. So that's that movement in cash. And again, as I mentioned before, the growth from here of 15 million to 21 million at the end of this past year is due to those entry fee receipts that we got from all those new sales. And down below, when I've been referring to the Hancock Whitney operating fund, the $12 million that was released to pay down the debt, well, that's the change there. And then up here, when we received 10% deposits, we put them in escrow at U.S. Bank. And when those folks moved into Oak Ridge, third flat Barlow building, we took the 10% and we basically used that to pay down the debt. So that's where those funds, explains the change. So that's my financial report. Hopefully it's as clear as mud. No, I think you understand it. I know this group gets it. And I must say that it's a pretty solid balance sheet. Last year's balance sheet was very strong. This year's balance sheet was very strong, and the operating results were strong. The audited financial statement is going to be coming out in about a month from now, and it's going to show a nice picture of the Vickers and your financial situation. So that's my report. I'm going to turn over to Blue Frank.
Thank you, Darren. Good afternoon. On behalf of the foundation, I just want a very short report today, but I do want to bring you up to date on a few things. Many of you are familiar with the Legacy Tree. It is in both the assisted living and in the health center. We have one in each. The leaf on each one of these trees is $1,000. And this past several months, we've had several residents come in, place a leaf for a loved one, and that money goes into a fund for Elizabeth. Elizabeth came to me last month, and she said, "Bruce, we'd like to order something." It is one example of what we ordered is this high-tech vital sign monitor that will be placed in the wellness center. This item costs a little bit over $6,000. And it saves a lot of time and things that Elizabeth said, I don't know how to work it, nor am I going to find out how to work it, but it's coming and it's on order. The next thing that I want to share with you is this past several months, we've dedicated 2 naming opportunities from the foundation. The first one was on the alternative access. The Purple Pass was you can see the slide of Dale and Bruce. That was given in honor of Dale and his hard work there. And that was given by funding from the management team and from the board of directors. We also received a very nice foundation check for the workshop to be named the Bob Zelski Workshop from Charlie and Yvonne Goldsmith. So both of those were dedicated last month, actually, and we have other opportunities here, and stop by my office and I can share some of those. The last thing that I want to share with everybody is the continue that we started years ago by Scott. It's the Vickers Landing Foundation Charity Classic, and that will be held at the yards right here up the street on April the 8th. The event includes golf, pickleball, a really great party with a DJ, and the recipients of this year's Charity Classic is going to be centered around food insecurity and nutrition for seniors. And the money will be given to 4 groups, Pie in the Sky, Meals on Wheels, Meals on Wings, and Epicure. And as of this morning, we have crossed the $100,000 mark on donations for this wonderful Charity Classic. And we have slots for pickleball right now. We have sold out the golf, and we have title sponsors, and so we're really excited about it. We have 2 groups coming from Oak Ridge that will be playing in it. So that's my report, and now I get to turn it over to the Purple Pass. I'm sorry, to Dale Purple. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be with you. I have updates in actually 4 areas as it relates to access and construction. The first has to do with the access. I am really happy to say that it opened last Friday morning, and all reports to date are it's working. And so, had it not, I'd be in witness protection. All the folks, this is just for Oak Ridge for the first 2 months, members at Oak Ridge, and that's so we can work out any bugs that may be in the system. So far, it's working really well. Everyone that is using it read and signed a document acknowledging the guidelines and expectations for the privilege of using it. And I think, Scott, we're averaging maybe every 15 minutes a car going through. So it's not like A1A, so it's working very well. We're going to open it for the Sawgrass campus probably the end of April. Last week I had a town hall meeting. I think it was the best town hall meeting I've ever been to. Talking about, again, the access. And the Sawgrass folks, 2 weeks before it is open for the members here, Scott and his team will be getting with you and registering the RFIDs, same kind of document to sign, acknowledging, understanding, and agreeing to the expectations. There are no guests, there are no staff, and there are no vendors that have access through that gate. I personally have not ridden through it. And none of the staff, none of the management team has an RFID. Part of the negotiations with Josh Perry, our dentist, was he wanted a limited number of RFIDs. He was concerned about flow of traffic. And so because of that, we're very careful on how we distribute it. Vickers Landing Transportation has access to it, and so I think for a lot of folks on this campus, that's really a really efficient way to get over there. They dropped off at the clubhouse and come back. Parking is kind of limited around the clubhouse, and you may find your parking way up towards the gate on A1A with a long walk down to the clubhouse. As of today, Scott confirmed this for me, but we have now had that gate open 24/7. Is that right? So initially we had just from 7 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. to just make sure that we had staff there, we were able to cover for it. But given the fact that it's worked so well, it is now, as of today, available 24/7. Next slide. Other activity on the Oak Ridge campus is the memory care and assisted living. If you drive along A1A, you can see those buildings really taking shape. We're right on track with the schedule. Next January, into January, early February, the Memory Center will open. That's a 2-story building. And then 2 to 3 months later, the assisted living building will open. That's a 4-story building with 43 units in it. But it's on track and everything is on schedule. Next slide. The pedestrian access. As I told the group, we've got the alternate access in 9 years. I think I can do this in 8 years or less. That's my goal. The pedestrian, we have support of all the Sawgrass Village Executive Center, the president of the Executive Center, which is really important, and the owner of the property where the sidewalk will pass through has given their blessing to it and is not charging us for that access. Our County Commissioner, Krista Joseph, has been at Oak Ridge with me, and we've discussed this, and she has given her full support to work to expedite this through the county commissioners when it is time to do so. This is being treated as a major modification to the PUD, and typically when you do that, you have to have a public hearing. She thinks she can help us there. A key piece of this is obviously getting Publix's support because where the sidewalk will go is into the Sawgrass in the Publix parking lot down one of their islands. As you all know, they have islands that separate the cars, and the plan is to put a sidewalk down one of those islands. This won't happen overnight. We've got a little experience. We signed the contract for the alternate access in September of 2023. We began construction in September of 2024. So these things don't happen overnight. Next slide. This is I'm leery to use the laser. This is the rendering of where the sidewalk will come through, at least our current plan. This right here, we got a faulty laser. This right here is where we got our sales and design center, the Mountain Star building. Initially, we were thinking we could take the sidewalk right where that gate was. There's not enough room between the buildings to be able to do that. Mountain Star would lose a lot of parking spaces. So we moved it over along this building, just on the opposite side of the building adjacent to Mountain Star. You cannot have a sidewalk empty into a street or into a parking lot. It has to have a crosswalk to another sidewalk. And so what this entails is we're going to change that intersection, that really goofy intersection there by Wells Fargo, and make it a 3-way stop. And we'll put a crosswalk across there. It'll connect to the island that's closest to Wells Fargo. And then we will put a sidewalk down that island, and it will then have a crosswalk that goes right into CDS. So that's the current plan. We've got a lot of support for this. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Next slide. On this campus, we've been working extensively towards a parking garage, which will be in the back of this campus where our current maintenance building is. When we plan to knock the maintenance building down in June of this year, that's about the timing. In that building, there will be a 4-story parking garage, and it will house staff cars, get all the staff off the campus into the parking garage, and it will also house all Vickers Landing transportation vehicles and golf carts. It will also be the home of a updated laundry facility that will be able to accommodate the needs of both campuses and also a very updated maintenance area. This is construction, will probably take about 8 months. We have the support of the community. We have the support of the Players Club Villas, which is right next to us. We have the support of the Master Association and with the PGA Tour. And also with the Marriott, Todd Hickings on our board is working with us to help execute this. So what we've learned is the importance of having all surrounding neighbors be informed, clear communication, and to have their support as we go forward. That's my report. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We are going to start with just sort of a snapshot of the department heads of all the things taking place around campus. And I wanted to start with the sales department. And I don't have a lot to say on this because I think the slide really speaks for itself. Tess and her team had 85 move-ins in 2024. And they've already had 7 so far this year for 2025. And I know when I first got here, the wait list was in the low to mid 200s, and it slowly grew. And I know there were concerns with the expansion of Oak Ridge that we would deplete the wait list. And the opposite has been proven true. That wait list now sits at 390. And I confirmed that number again today because that number was from a week and a half ago. The current number is 399. So we are about to break through 400. So a big thank you to Tess, who's back there in the back, and Juliana, Paris, and Kelly. For all of their hard work and, of course, the persistence it takes to get somebody from that initial meeting all the way to moving in, and also coordinating with all the other departments to get people moved into this campus. It's not always an easy process, but they have all done an absolutely tremendous job. Activities. February 18th, of course, the play reading, Excuses and Tall Tales, had a full house again. And a huge thank you to Ken Borman and the talented cast for that. The first Oak Ridge Sailing Regatta was held, and of course the monthly regattas will continue here at Sawgrass as well. There's a putting challenge that will take place at Oak Ridge on March 11th. Trivia continues at both campuses, thanks to Lou Lindeman and Ray McNerney for hosting. And some upcoming events. March 18th, College Basketball 2025, presented by our own Bill Cost here in this auditorium. March 19th, there's going to be a trip to the Museum of Science and History, or MOSH. And on March 31st, a trip to One World Fresh Aquaponic Greenhouse to learn about the future of aquaponics and their sustainable food production method. You should also check out the front page article in the Vicar's Voice that gives you a lot of detail about what this program is. I've taken the tours. It's fascinating. Of course, a special thank you to our pianists, Nancy Mock and Charlie Goldsmith, for their playing in the dining room. And again, Mrs. Mock for organizing another music trivia event. So there's a lot going on in activities, and if you have any suggestions or ideas on other activities you'd like to see, please reach out to Janice and her team. Housekeeping. The housekeeping team, they have a deep cleaning crew that's fantastic. They've completed deep cleaning for almost all of the health center rooms. We had a couple of members that said not right now, so we're working with them to reschedule those. And then the next we're going to move to the Stratford. So we'll do the deep cleaning of the Stratford apartments as well as all the common areas in the Stratford, and all the windows have been cleaned. So it looks fantastic. At Oak Ridge, Donna and the deep cleaning team will be doing the dining room floor and then extracting the carpets in the hallways and all the flats. Probably in the coming weeks, and once we get a date set for that, Donna will send out some information just to let you know what's going on. If you have any questions about housekeeping or need additional services, please reach out to Donna. Security updates. Just a friendly reminder that the speed limit on both campuses is and always has been 15 miles an hour. So I'd ask that you please be mindful of this, and we continue to remind staff and vendors of the same thing. The Players' Championship is coming March 11th through 16th. Scott and the Transportation Department are going to have shuttles that will be running from both campuses to take you to and from the event. We'll also have additional security here stationed at the main entrance at Sawgrass to make sure we don't have anybody that's parking without authorization.
And I don't know if it's come out yet, but I know they're gonna send out a memo with some additional details spelling that out, so be on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, if you have questions, just reach out to Scott or just call the main desk and they'll be able to give you the information. Big update for dining services. We have a couple of new leaders in both of our kitchens. And I'm going to give you their resumes. Thomas Grossman has been with Vickers Landing since August of 2024 as a sous chef and was promoted to chef de cuisine at the beginning of 2025. Thomas has an Associate of Science from Le Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts in Miami. He came to us from the Gate Hospitality Group, where he worked at TPC Sawgrass, the Lodge and Club Ponte Vedra, and also served as one of the chefs for the TPC Sawgrass PGA Tour, working about 12 tournaments. He's the chef de cuisine at Oak Ridge. He's been there about 2 weeks and got right in with the team. Ron Smalls recently joined Vickers Landing and will be a great addition to the culinary team. Ron has an associate in culinary arts from the American Culinary Federation of Charleston, South Carolina. He has an impressive background, having served as chef de cuisine, all this French, at the Fisher Island Club for 13 years, executive chef at East Ridge Independent, and sous chef at Ocean Properties in Islamorada. From 2019 until relocating to North Florida, he worked as executive sous chef at Deering Bay Yacht and Country Club in Coral Gables, Florida. Ron will be the chef here at Sawgrass. I know Robert and his team sent out recently the new reservation policy at Oak Ridge. That's done to try to improve the efficiency of that operation and enhance the dining experience, and we would appreciate your cooperation in following that policy. It would be greatly helpful. Robert's got a market day here at Sawgrass scheduled for March 20th outside of the Blue Heron, and we are working on plans to introduce a market day at Oak Ridge as well. And plant operations, as you all know, Edward Byron and his team are always on the move. Jetting of manholes will begin soon on this campus, and that's to help improve some of the drainage. And you've seen all the sidewalk and building pressure washing that's always ongoing, and they've been working on some of the brick pavers out and about to make sure that they are flat and not a trip hazard. Oak Ridge, I believe this month they've scheduled the pressure washing to go around the cottages. He's nodding his head, so that's correct. And our work orders from December 1st to February 25th, plant operations completed 1,690 work orders, having over 50% of those completed on the same day, which I believe is an improvement from the last quarter. So great job with plant operations. And as always, all the department heads are here today. And so after this meeting, if you have an individual question or concern, we're all going to be standing in the back, so please just come up and say hello and we'll help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kendall. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to meet with all of us today. I have some really great updates. First of all, our wellness program. One of the initiatives for this coming year was to take a look at our offerings and make sure that we expand them to the traditional 8 pillars of wellness. And we're doing that with some partnerships. The International Council of Active Aging is the leading entity in the nation, actually internationally. But they are they're out of Canada originally, and began this organization about 25 years ago. And they provide much information for communities such as Vickers Landing, and give us a lot of wellness tips, also white papers, research, and really best practices. As I shared previously, I had the opportunity to attend the 2024 International Council of Active Aging Conference in North Carolina and met some really great partners who are going to help us on our way. So we will be joining their organization this quarter. And we are looking at what does wellness mean on our campus. This will be done in conjunction with Janice. And what does wellness look like for Vickers Landing? We'll be asking for some input from many of our members, and we will be creating a mission and belief statement. In addition, we have CubeGo on our campus, and we are looking at that application to determine how it may help us reach our wellness development goals. So we will be holding some meetings with Kim Brown, also with Janice and her team, and how can we utilize Cubico or other tools that are available to us through the wellness programs to assist our residents and members in meeting their wellness goals as well. Site visits. I think we learn best by partnering with those who are performing well in their areas. There are a few of our Navari partners, the organization that we belong to as a community, who are often touted as being experts in the field of wellness in lifeline communities. One is Morris Park, which is in Naples, and the other is the Mather Institute, and they have locations in 3 different states in the nation. So one of our exercises this year will be to visit their communities and observe what they're doing and see what we can bring back to Vickers Landing. And lastly, we will be working on a branding program. Many communities, such as ours, have a branded name for their wellness program. So we'll be working with our partners to determine what our brand looks like, so that it's something that we can refer to when we discuss our wellness program. The second announcement is LEAD framework. Lex Gonzalez, who many of you know as our Director of Rehabilitation, had the opportunity to attend a continuing education program in Orlando several months ago. There he was introduced to LEAD framework. This is leveraging existing abilities in dementia. With our memory care building in process of construction, we are continually seeking methods and mechanisms in which we can assist the members that live on our campuses who struggle with memory issues. We have IMEP, we're looking at the introduction of SIDO in the coming year, and obviously the opening of our own memory care unit. LEAD framework is a unique approach to working with individuals who have cognitive loss. Historically, for the last 30 years, when we've talked about assisting an individual who has memory issues, we've focused on what they can't do. LEAD was created by a psychologist and a rehabilitation director who worked in communities like ours. And instead of focusing on the deficits that those who struggle with memory loss, this focuses on the strengths, just as the name indicates. It's leveraging existing abilities in dementia. So we plan to bring this to Vickers Landing, and it's a shift in dementia care. And it moves away from the deficit-based model that we have always focused on in working with our members. This framework encourages caregivers and healthcare professionals to focus on what remains. It leverages the strengths, abilities, and meaningful engagement to enhance the quality of life. Ironically, this program mirrors very much what we are looking at with SIDO, which is a brain health program. Several months ago, we provided a bit of an introduction to SIDO, and this aligns with it beautifully. We recently had the opportunity to work with Dr. Vicky, who is the therapist from the University of Central Florida, who created this program. She has been working on this concept for about 7 years. We are the first community in the nation to embark on this training. And so all of our therapy staff, all of Lex's team, and all of the healthcare department heads have been trained in LEAD. And we will be working on implementing that in the health center, the assisted living, and also in memory care as it opens. So we're very excited. And we also have the opportunity to be included in their studies. So recognition to the community for taking this journey as well. Home health. Home health has been a discussion for the last year as well. Our desire has been to expand the license to include skilled nursing services. And what that means is our current home health department can come in any home and assist with medication management or any other type of nursing skill that you might have in your home. It will allow some individuals who choose not to move to the next level of care to receive some of those services in their own home.